G'day, welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined by Algared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm alive and very happy because I'm no longer on the phone. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so on stream this morning we had a quick look at the stuff for Xenothreat, and we thought we'd do basically like a sale update because it is kind of almost rivals Alien Week itself. So we thought we'd do one just for you guys to bring you up to speed. So I went through Alien Week on my own, and we kind of had Algared go through Alien Week on stream today. So we thought,
and it was as we were going through Alien Week on the stream today, and we were looking at these CCUs. We went, why is Retaliator there? And it was only when we then looked and saw this, the Xenothreat stuff, that we realized, that's why. So
long story short, we're just going to go through these like we usually do, like in a normal, typical sale, and just kind of tell you what you think. So, Algared, you kick us off, mate, with the Titan.
Titan is, I think, still one of the best starter ships in game. It has plenty of cargo space. It's got a wonderful nose gun made by one of my favourite manufacturers, Kruger. But yeah, it's a great little ship. It's got internals. It's a nice price. What can I say about it?
You can see why they threw it in for Xenothreat, can't you? The cargo, the combat, soloistic appeal. It's why it's been such a hallmark of the game and so highly recommended, not just by us, but by most content creators in the community. It's been highly recommended. So yeah, it's kind of one that you can't really go wrong with. So yeah.
Indeed.
All right, the C1. For me, Algared, this is probably, how do I put this? I think this would be better for Xenothreat than the Cutlass, just purely based because it's a bit more cargo-esque related, and it would lean more to that cargo-esque appeal over the combat type person in this one. I think for me, it's a better space-orientated craft because of its pancake-like appeal when it comes to landing. But I can see why they've added it here for this one, and it's a ship that I can recommend for daily game use, so to speak, especially at the moment. What about yourself?
Does have a nice cargo hold. It's a nice sized ship. I still, being a solo ship, I do balk at the price. I find, when you're looking at those,
it's technically for two people.
But I suppose. But yeah, I still balk at those prices. But it is a nice ship.
Well, you can see their logic. You got a Titan at $60. This is $125, and it was at $110 when it originally dropped. So if you got in early, you got a little bit of savings. So yeah. But yeah, right. The Connie, you can kind of also see why this is in there, can't you, Algared? Because of the gunship type stuff. So it's almost like an upgunned or an upscaled Avenger for 4 people rather than 1.
Yeah, it is one of my favourite ships. It was the first ship that I ever bought, and I bought it because it was 4 crew plus a fighter, ideal for a small group of friends, but also good solo. And it's got missiles, it's got guns, it's just a good all-round ship.
Yep. I think the only other one that I could probably recommend here that they don't have here is the Taurus. I think the Taurus would go fairly well, cargo-wise at Xenothreat as well. But this is probably the better all-rounder for the entire game. So, yeah.
But when you look at the Taurus, the only thing the Taurus lacks against the Andromeda is the lower turret.
Yeah, and having that tractor beam, it'll probably get a bit more use for Xeno.
And when you're looking at those turrets, they're man turrets. So if you're going solo, you're not using your turrets. You're only using your 4 main guns, and you've still got your missiles. So
I think you just very adequately explained why it went up in price.
Yep.
Because it's too good for its price. Right, the Eclipse. Really good at the combat. You can see why they've got it in here. This thing would absolutely kind of help, I don't know, mince up the Idris a little bit. So you can kind of see why they've chucked it in there. So yeah, really good at solo missions at the moment. My question will be, it's a bit of a niche gameplay in the full game. Obviously there's going to be things to do, but I just don't think it's... Man, you'd have to really be into torpedo bombing to spend that amount of money on a single ship. You talked about how you couldn't get behind the price of a C1. How do you get behind that? And this actually is a solo ship. You know, so
and that is a hard sell, the $300. But as you said, this is a great ship. When we were doing the missions for Xenothreat, basically I did them in the Eclipse because it's just a great ship. You fly in, you fire your torpedoes, you fly out.
but you are paying a premium. So
You are paying a premium.
Yeah, but you guys do you. From a value proposition, I don't think me and Algared can recommend it, but you know,
Well,
it is what it is.
Not when you consider that you can get the Retaliator.
Yeah, for cheaper.
For cheaper.
Yeah. All right, the Hornet Mark II. Really hard to get behind this now when it was kind of $10 behind the old Super Hornet. And I'm not a real big fan of how these things really cracked up in it by $50. It's kind of a bit gross to think a ship that never really came out, and they can argue that. And what I mean by it never came out was it never really got into the game. You can't buy it anymore.
It never had. We never had armor in game, which for Hornets have. We never really got missiles working. The Tracker and the Ghost never had their gameplay.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, and I do find it a bit harsh for people who bought the F7C or any of the Hornets early on. Got lumped with a.
Yeah. I can understand the price going up because it kind of went in the game and it would have new features, but it was just new models that came in the game. It wasn't really new gameplay. It wasn't anything like that. So I just can't justify the $50 price increase. To me, it is like, we need money, give us money. That's what it felt like. And I just didn't think, it didn't feel justified to me. And it's the same thing here. Again, knowing that the F7A and the Super Hornet are still a thing and the Mark IIs are more than likely coming, I just can't get behind this at $175. Like, to put it at the same price, you literally have another ship that's for sale today. So I'm going to skip ahead all the way to the end. The Vulture. Now, that is a much better value proposition at $175.
Look, I'd agree. I really struggle with the Hornet Mark II pricing. I struggle with the fact that they took it up $50. I struggle with the fact that anyone who'd bought the Hornets early on, I think, really got shafted. It's. I know a lot of old backers found the change to the Kato Al really left a sour taste in their mouth.
It is a little bit like that, isn't it? It's probably the closest comparison we have, actually. Yeah.
And that's what this feels like to me. The change to the Hornet and the taking the old Hornets off and I get the idea. You know, okay, they're old stock. We've now got the new ones. The game's advanced too far. We've had too much feature creep or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Going forward, we're going to stick with this, but it would have. I think it would have been better just to say, the Mark I's are a relic. Anyone who's got one, you've got one in your hangar, but everything else is upgraded. You know.
All right, let's talk about the Vulture now, because again, this will highlight the comparison what we're making with the Hornet as well. This has still got gameplay to come. The Hornet, though it's got armor and that to come, that affects all ships. This has actually got gameplay to come with it. There's no real new gameplay coming for the Hornet, as an example. So yeah, I do wonder why they're selling both salvage ships here, because as far as I'm aware, going through the Xenothreat stuff, there's no salvage stuff tied in with this. It's all cargo loading and combat like it was before. So I don't quite understand why these have been raked in.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe
lots of wrecks to be salvaged, I suppose.
Probably that's the only thing I can think of.
But
yeah, still a good starter ship. But I'd probably go for the Reclaimer just based on a value proposition over this one. Right, Algared, we can probably put these 4 Vanguards together. Is there a preference? Mine is this one, the Sentinel. I think if I have to buy one, it would be that one. But realistically, from a Xeno, it would be the Harbinger would be really good for Xeno. But really, day-to-day gameplay, I think for me, the Wardens of the Vanguard, have dropped off a fair bit. What's your take?
Look, I tend to agree. I think for Xenothreat, anything that's got torpedoes is always a plus. But the Sentinel is it is the E-Warfare version, and that makes, we don't really have many E-Warfare ships. I think the Ghost is closest to it.
There's a couple. There's a couple of ships that have got little bits and bobs, but nothing that does everything it does. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that makes this quite unique, and and I know down the track they're talking, E-warfare torpedoes and stuff. And so of the Vanguards, this is the better option. Yeah.
And the long range fighters have yet to really see their time in the sun because we don't really have the need for them so much yet. We kind of need multi systems, and it's gonna be when you want to get the distance cheaply, like when you don't want to take an entire Idris to get 3 ships there type of thing. It's like you could just take 3 of these on their own. It's a bit more stealthy. It's a bit more under the cover of darkness type of thing. I think that'll come up in time, and ships like this will have their time in the sun. But from a function perspective, a lot of people just don't like the way the nose guns work, those bespoke nose guns. But the actual size 5 on the nose makes this thing an absolute powerhouse, and it's always been kind of strong in the meta. It's just been it really fell off when they did some certain things to it, and it's basically just never recovered. But it came in as the most popular ship. It was one of the most popular ships you could get at the time.
But I think the key thing, they always sold this as a ship with redundancy upon redundancy upon redundancy. It was like the old bombers that would go out, get blown to bits, and still come home.
Definitely hard to take down, Algared.
Yeah, and I can remember seeing videos a year or two ago, and people saying, "Oh, look, I found a secret storage place." Because in that little stairwell, and no, that's just a component bay. So it's got bays all over the place for components, and because it's a multi-crew ship, you can actually your crew partner can actually be repairing those internal components. So this ship has redundancy, and I think engineering gameplay will make this really shine.
Again, though, like you were talking about 2-player ships, $125 for the C1 doesn't look that bad when you start to look at this. That's more than double the price, and it's a 2-person ship as well. So, I think the Warden being the cheapest one is the one that a lot of people can probably look at because they've talked about upgrading the components and swapping the pods over and getting the different functionality in game. The only other one that really comes into the mix that way is also the Harbinger, because the Harbinger apparently has different armor. So if you really want the best, but armor also has drawbacks, like it costs more to move around because it's heavier and stuff like that. But there is a place for all of them. We're just going to have to give it some time. But as a value proposition, there are better choices out there. I think you would kind of agree with that on the value proposition.
Yeah, it's hard to. It really is hard to work out where the Vanguards really sit, because we know that they've got redundancies and components, and we've really got to wait until the engineering gameplay really kicks in, and we've got the whole gamut of it to really see how that impacts the survivability of this ship and the time to kill.
Well, that's what I mean with they might see their time in the sun again, but the real turn off for most people are those 4 nose guns are just really weird, because there's no other ship that kind of really has bespoke guns just for itself, and I think they could have really put them around the nose or integrated into the nose or something like that, but be normal guns, and it would have been okay. But to make them bespoke is just a little weird. Right, the Antares, they don't. This is the interesting thing I read. There is, as far as I'm aware, there is no normal Scorpius. It is just the Antares. I get the feeling, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but these are ships it feels like that they want to sell more of. It feels like that across the board. Like they're not all. Some of them are okay, but not the most popular. Like, for example, why is the Antares here, but not the Scorpius?
Yeah, and for the same point, why is the Hurricane not here?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that was the other ship we took out that I really enjoyed in Xenothreat, was the Hurricane. Yeah,
we did.
Whereas I didn't enjoy being on the Redeemer, but I enjoyed being on the Hurricane and the Eclipse.
Don't let Paul know that. He'll be really offended you hate his favourite ship. Right. The Antares, though, like what does this bring to Xeno? I don't get it. I really don't. Like what is the EM? What is that one person in the background going beep, press the button going to do? And I know they're changing it so they fire missiles and stuff, but honestly, just let the pilot do it and make it a single seat fighter. I think it would solve a lot of the problems. Or at least give them the option.
Yeah, it is hard to have a second person who's just doing the doing the EMP and maybe being able to fire missiles.
Look, maybe you and I will go out in the normal Scorpius and have another run at it.
Yeah,
it's been a while since we did it.
I didn't really like it.
Well, we'll give it another crack. It's been 12 months. We'll go out and give it another one. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I still prefer the Hurricane, but it will have its time in the sun once armor and stuff comes in. I think it'll go a different way.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think it'll have more armor than a Hurricane, and that's where it'll shine.
Right. The Retaliator, just how that's rework. Obviously, you can see the modules coming in. You can kind of see where this is going. I still am so surprised they didn't really. They left it 5 crew. That's my biggest issue with this now. It's almost like the Eclipse is on one side, this is on the other, and you really kind of wanted it to be somewhere in the middle, like with around 3 people. I just think they should have consolidated a lot of the turrets and stuff like that. I don't know. I can't see why you. What are you going to be doing with 5 people on this? It's going to be so boring. There's not a lot to do. And there's going to be a lot of downtime, especially when you're kind of running stealth. Is it just sitting and lying in wait and then surprise?
Yeah, I could see 4 crew, and I think even that's still over crewed.
Yeah.
You've got your engineer. He's going to be running around doing the components, diaspora around the ship from memory. You've got your turret gunners. You've got your pilot. But yeah,
I'm interested to see how it. I'm interested to see how it goes, like when you actually use it as a dropship to deploy people as well. I think that might be really cool as a stealth dropship, actually getting people in there, and then being able to possibly combo that with torpedoes. Strike something and then send people in after it. That's a really appealing prospect to a lot of people. Like, if you can torpedo a ship and take it out, and then when it's soft death, you send in the troops. That's an all-in-one ship, and I don't think people have really played that scenario through enough. I think it's the thing that really saved this ship is the modularity. It really puts it above. Its drawbacks are brought back up to a little bit above most ships because of its modules.
And we know that, at least in lore, there are other modules that they envisaged or could be. So they never said these are the only modules that'll ever be. So, there's a possibility that down the track you could send a warfare or a medical or whatever module for it.
Yeah.
So
fingers crossed, huh? Fingers crossed. And at $175 being the base variant is really interesting. It's stuffed a lot of people's CCUs though. They really need to change the way the CCUs worked because it's just stuffed up a lot of people's shit. Right. The Reliant Tanner. I really want to love the Reliant, or as you call it, the Reliant Robin. I really want to love it. It really speaks Star Wars vibes to me quite a lot. And I really want to love it, but it just doesn't work on so many levels.
Yeah, it's still. I know when it came out, I was watching Top Gear, and they were doing at that time they were doing their Reliant, their Robin series where they'd send one up to space or do whatever they did to it, and Reliant just kind of was like that. It was and so it's been tarred and feathered by that link. But the Tanner is a really nice combat vessel. That turret that can spin 180 degrees with your gunner.
Yep. You know what would be really interesting, like just to really test the ropes, is this if you could get like someone like Avenger 1 or Zero State, or some of those guys, and just go like, what can this actually do if you put it in someone's really good hands?
Yeah, someone who's really good with the ship.
And go like it, like so get them to use it for a little bit, maybe have like a bit of a mini tournament in pairs, and then go, what do you need to do to fix this thing? And I think unfortunately a lot of it's got to do with how it's just a giant flying wing, and it's the Reliant series as a whole, like it just doesn't do enough for its size. It's like it's got to justify that footprint, and I just don't think it does that. It either needs more guns or more cargo or something like that. There's a lot of like literally what I'd say almost half the ship is unutilized. Those 2 wings on the side just don't do anything other than mounting points for guns.
The other thing that makes it a problem is when it's in flight mode and it spins.
Yeah,
you actually can't exit the ship.
Yeah. Can you imagine if it actually had it as a part of the flight characteristics? Like, I don't know if you remember the ships that were in Lost in Space at the start of that movie, is that so if you turn to the left, it actually rotates like it almost like a paddle steamers to the left,
Yeah.
and then paddle steamers to the right. So if it actually moved, and if it were in its movement, that actually changes its footprint. So it's harder to hit. So if you could actually make it a part of, like, if I rotate it slightly and it goes sideways, I know well, it puts it at a different level, because if that person's in combat with you, if you know you can make your footprint smaller just by turning in a certain angle, that could be really interesting. But I don't think it's been designed that way. I think they literally just want it to be transformed. But man, if it could paddle steam, I think they might be onto something.
Do that. If it could do that, like that, would, I think that'd really bit more of that Xeon tech.
Agreed.
Carry over. Yeah. Because that's one of the things that this ship was really doing. This was Misk's. Is it Misk?
Yes.
Yeah, this was Misk's real first ship that really drew on that the Xeon trade deal. So it's got the Xeon engines. It's flying more in that Xeon style. So it'd be nice to see that. But one of the downsides for me is you've got two people locked in that bubble. If the ship if you need to evacuate, you can't get out.
Yeah.
So it almost needs that exploding jettison like the Shrikes have. Yeah.
Makes me wonder if we'll eventually see a starter from Misk. So we'll see. Right, the Reclaimer. I was kind of hinting at this one earlier. I love this ship. I think for its value, you're getting a capital ship for $400. I know some people argue with me that it's a large, not a capital, but it's got a bespoke component, so it makes it a capital.
It's got a capital power plant. So.
Yep. So that makes it, and it's also bespoke, and that's the defining characteristic of a capital ship, is a bespoke capital component. Yep. I just think this is really good value for its price. So yeah.
Yeah, I like the Reclaimer just because it's got those Nostromo vibes. It's got those Alien-esque vibes. Even when you go through and you've got the dripping water or oil coming from one of the wires near the back of it, it's just got that feel. You almost do feel there's an alien going to pop out and get you at times. So
I can tell some designer's going to do something that some mission that has something to that effect.
There's going to be a wrecked Reclaimer somewhere, and we'll find an egg, and
All right, this will be the last one for today. The M2. Boy, this is a hard pill to swallow now. It really, really is. $5 more, and you have an ironclad assault. You can buy that today as well, and you can get it with LTI. I can no longer recommend this ship at that price point.
Yeah.
Right? I can recommend the ship, but I can't recommend it at $520 because, again, you get 4 vehicles for $5 more. So you can this carries 2 Nova tanks, that carries 4. You can also do way more cargo. The only reason I can possibly think positively is it comes down to vanity, or not function. It comes down to, I prefer the look of Crusader ships over Drake, and I think that, is there any other positives that you can pull out of this, Algared? Just trying to think of positives.
I actually don't like the Hercules at all.
Thanks for the positive reinforcement, Algared.
I once multi-crewed with someone on their Hercules, and I hated it. I hated the guns. I hated the turrets. To me, it was just a bad experience, and I know people love it. I know they put stuff in it, but I wanted to love it, but I can't. I just don't.
I think it goes back to what you and I say, like, about how they tend to bring out the worst ships first, and the fact that it was the first kind of vehicle transporter.
Yeah.
Remember, I said at the time, I remember I had to argue with Sear and Paul at the time, and I said, like, it'll be, just wait till another one comes out. And literally 12 months later, we had the Liberator concept. We've now had that. It's dropping off more and more. So I have to agree with you in what you're saying.
You like this ship. I think it goes back to the first point. $520 without LTI, even if it's got tender insurance. That's a hard pill to swallow. Yeah. When you can at the present buy a concept ship that has LTI for roughly the same price. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. So the last thing we'll do today, Algared, is we'll just go through the CCUs as we kind of did on stream. We're just going to really talk about the ones that we probably like and recommend. There is a few of them. We'll go top down. You save $50 on the Merchantman. kind of good for new players, not so good for those of us that have got the Merchantman at cheaper price points, obviously. Is there anything you want to add to that one, Algared? I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Look, I think if someone is trying to get a Merchantman, that's actually could be a good last stop. CCU, it's $50 saving. That's man, $50 is $50. We're saying $20 is $20.
Yeah. So this is a good example. This is one that I'd probably want to pick up if I was going to get the Ironclad Assault, because it literally makes the Ironclad Assault cheaper. You know, $35 off something like that. But yeah, again, that just talks into what me and Ag were just talking about there. What's the next one? So yeah, we've got the Santoki and the Glaive. The Glaive's probably not one that would recommend as a ship because of the, you know, we'll put it this way, it's an Endeavor or a Crucible. It's not something me and Algared can get behind at that price point, but you are buying into an item that'll more than likely be at the end of one of the rep grinds for Esperia or something like that if you want to get that.
And the other thing with the Glaive is because it's a ship that only comes out intermittently.
Yeah.
It's not really the best ship to, unless you actually want it. It's not doesn't really ever feel like it's a good ship to have as a CCU jump for me. But you know.
Well, you can also get two Super Hornets, and it's about the same on par. So it's essentially you're doubling the price just to get the alien variant. But yeah, I don't know, the CCU itself, I'd be more likely to try and get one that goes into the Endeavor or the Crucible because they're more commonly available ships. But if this is all you can get at the time, you do you and save $20. I think the next one was the Santoki. Again, it's not in the best place right now, the Santoki, Algared. I think you'd kind of agree with me on that one. But yeah, as a CCU, it saves $20, so that's not.
Yeah, well, that's the one we were saying on the stream today. It's $20, you know. So
yeah. Getting down to the last few now, so I've only got a few more here. I know the Retaliators one, Saber Firebird's still there, so that's the next one. Again, you know, this is the same one that's been there for before, so it's only $15 saving. Which they keep resetting every time I do this, so we're down to the Retaliator. You know, starts to get smaller and smaller as you go down $15, and I think we're getting to the end of the rope here pretty quickly.
But you can very quickly see if you were going for one of those more expensive ships, just using all of those CCUs that are available at the moment, all of those Warbond CCUs, you can actually bring the price down, what, $50, $70, $80, $100.
Yeah, well, again, like the what we're saying about the assault, I wish I'd actually kind of done that ahead of time actually and worked out the actual savings. What I might do is I might just leave a comment, pinned comment at the top of this video, and just tell you what you guys can get an Imperial assault for, because it's still available. So yeah, this kind of proves the whole point. Don't buy concepts anymore. They're just not worth it. Take your time. Well, the ship's not out, right? You're going to have at least 12 months in most cases. Buy a whole bunch of Warbond CCs. I guarantee you're going to save $100.
Get a CCU to the ship you're after at its current price.
Yeah.
When it's available to lock in that price. And
what was that? $10, $15 depending on the Ironclad or the Ironclad Assault. That's how much they were. And I did that, Algared. I picked up CCs. I'm pretty sure you did too.
No, I didn't. I haven't bought anything.
Oh, he's off the Ironclad, right?
I keep saying I didn't buy anything during Invictus. Didn't even buy an MPUV. Now that's heresy at that point.
All right, then what would you like to hear from people below in the comments, Algared?
Yeah, what do you think about these ships are available for Xenothreat? Did they miss anything? Why do you think certain ships are there but don't really
make a lot of sense? Because like Algared and I said, that I think there's some better ships for Xeno. Well, for instance, the Redeemer works very well as well in this. Like you said, the Hurricane, any that do cargo and combat. Like, why isn't there a Cutlass there? You know, why isn't there a Freelancer there? Why isn't the Misery there? You know, things like that.
Yep, and the other thing is, what do you guys think about the Vanguard? Do you think they will have their time in the sun? Do you think that their redundancies are actually going to make them really shine when the full engineering gameplay comes into play?
Yeah. All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thanks to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. He's been Algared.
He's been Execute, and we're out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.